I'm Garry Rogers. I'm nearly 70 years of age and I'm very, very proud to have made it that far considering the life I've led. I'd like to share a bit of my experiences with you. One of my favourite occupations obviously is the motorsport business. I'm a motor mechanic by trade. I started our racing team when I was 18 years of age just as a driver. I developed it from there into a fully flowing business that it is today, employing 36 people, building and racing cars and loving every minute of it. Probably people wonder, how do you become a racing car driver, or what makes you want to become a racing car driver? Well, when I was young, I really wanted to be a motor mechanic, and so I set about getting an apprenticeship as a motor mechanic, but all during the time of doing that I had this real love of cars. Not necessarily driving them, because at that stage I was quite young and of course and I wasn't driving, but I just liked to tinker around with them. I could sit on a fence with my eyes shut, listen to a car go down the road, and I can tell you what sort of an engine was in that car. Now, of course, during this apprenticeship time, I had to learn to drive eventually to get my licence, so I did learn to drive. And I've got a terrible confession to make. I didn't have a car, as I said, and my dad didn't want me driving his car, so I actually stole a car. One night, my friend and myself, we went out and I stole an Austin A40. Now, people wouldn't even know what an Austin A40 is these days, but it was an old English car, and we stole that car, and I actually learned to drive in that. We used to drive around in the night and then hide it, and then go back in the night, like a day or two or three or four, hope that no one had found the car, and do the same thing. So I certainly, all of a sudden, I taught myself to drive like that, at someone else's expense. Now I know, in hindsight, it was probably the wrong thing to do. I pray to God that He'll forgive me, and I've got a feeling He probably has. Much to my parents' horror, I bought a racing car out of the Saturday's age. Now, where would you look to buy a racing car? I wouldn't have thought in Saturday's age. It'd be like buying a racing car in the Darwin times. But anyway, I did buy it. The first race that I competed in was at Winton in Victoria. I was 18 years of age. It was 1963. And I went up there as proud as punch. Here I am, I'm finally going to make it. Now, to me, and of course back then you didn't have any mechanics. It was all your mates and your girlfriends and everyone's else girlfriends and friends that helped you get your car ready. So we got the car ready, we went up there, and we didn't have a trailer, we towed it with a bit of steel between two cars to get us there. So we got that there, and I went in the race, and actually I won it. Back then you didn't even call the grid the grid. It was the starting line, so you went down. You didn't have any fancy driving suits or that. I had a pair of shorts, a t-shirt, and some Dunlop volleys. That's what you wore. I had my helmet on. I got onto the starting line, and I'm thinking to myself, gee, I've never done this before. You know, I better try and do it well. And I can't honestly remember. I know I should, but I don't even know how you determined where you started. I think you probably just draw numbers out of a hat. But anyway, what happened, I thought, well, if I can get to the first corner at a reasonable time and sort of, I didn't want to be too dirty and get a bad reputation, but I thought the way to do this is make sure no one can get too close and start pushing and shoving. So I thought you're better to be the combatter rather than the combatant. I knew for sure then what I wanted to do with part of my life. Obviously in those days no one got paid to drive racing cars, and there was no such thing as professional racing teams, but I knew that if I continued on in my commitment to my apprenticeship and followed that through and did the right thing to my employer and kept going my life, somewhere, somehow I would be involved in racing cars, and that's proven to be true. I had great parents. I was very fortunate. I was brought up in a great family. We had a lot of rules, but we also had a lot of fun. And my mum was totally opposed to this racing car activity, and I think my dad used to side with her, but I think he actually just did that to keep her quiet, because deep down I think he quite enjoyed it. But also my mum was very religious. We used to go to mass every Sunday, and we had rosary beads, and I had a St Christopher medal that my mum attached to the glove box of my racing car. Now most people would say the glove box, what's a glove box? Well, in those days your racing car had a glove box. I didn't cut my gloves in it, but I had my St Christopher medal on it, and that was to keep me safe no matter what. And I've got to say, I think Mum was right, because I had some pretty torrid affairs over the years, both in cars and out of them, and I think St Christopher's been keeping a good eye on me all these years. Motor racing is a dangerous activity. You can only take a certain amount of precautions. I certainly had one really scary moment in my whole career, which was in 1981 at Bathurst. There was a huge crash at the top of the mountain. I was coming third in the race at that stage. The cars in front of me came together and crashed, blocked the whole track. I speared into them. I couldn't go anywhere. Back in those days, there was no runoff roads, there was no safety barriers, there was no nothing. I crashed into them. The car sort of just snugged in and stopped, and I was jammed in it. My foot was stuck under the accelerator pedal, and the fire started. And anyway, a whole lot of what people called yobbos, but in actual fact, they were bloody good people. They're the ones that saved the day. They got over the fence and got me out. So that was my scary moment in motor racing. I probably gained a bit of a reputation for creating a few little issues on the racetrack. I had to front up to the stewards probably on quite a numerous amount of occasions, and of course the drivers that I've employed in recent years, whenever they do something wrong, they always hang it on me and they say, well, hang on, you know, you did that. And I say, well, hang on, that was okay. That was me, and I was paying. I'm paying you not to do that. What I do is exciting and it's fun, but the one thing that I've learned over the years, you've got to have a lot of consideration for other road users as well as racing cars on the racetrack. But it's no different to you driving your car every day. You don't need to get out there and arrive at the traffic lights and blow everyone off. That doesn't do any good. Sure, if you want to have a little bit of a speed, find a bit of a quiet road somewhere, enjoy it as best you can, but accept the fact that what you've got in a car can be a very deadly weapon, and you can have a lot of fun in it, you can enjoy it, but you can also cause a lot of trouble in it. So just please think about it when you use it.
My name is Scott McLaughlin. I'm 22. I live in Melbourne, but was originally from New Zealand in Christchurch, New Zealand, and started racing go-karts when I was 6 years old. Springboarded me into the right direction, and for me it's just a pure form of motorsport, and I really enjoyed it when I was younger. The person that taught me really how to drive was my pursuits were my mum and dad. They always used to come with me to kart races across New Zealand and where I was from, and basically taught me the craft of racing and told me what was right and what was wrong. But I always did that on the racetrack and never practiced on the road. The first car I ever drove was on my uncle's farm. It was a VW Beetle. I was only 7 years old. I had to sit on some pillows and whatever, and we're on his farm, and it was called a paddock basher, and I learned how to drive a manual when I was younger, and it was basically I learned really early how to do everything, and that's basically where I learned how to drive a car and get it off the line and whatnot. When I was 16, and got a drive with a V8 Supercar team, Stone Brothers Racing, on the Gold Coast. Moved to the Gold Coast and started my career in the development series for young blokes. Yeah, my first race, probably the most nervous times of my life in a V8 Supercar. Never driven anything else but a V8 Supercar, and from karts was a big step. I was 16 as well, and it was pretty crazy. So for me, I was nervous, but had a good run, and it sort of worked out alright. Looking at where I am now. My first win in car racing and the development series, that was amazing. That was a big weight off my shoulder. It was huge, and it was really put me out onto the open air for people like Garry to look at me for a drive in the main series. I'm normally a pretty nervous guy on the starting grid, so that's for me. I'm just hoping that I can get a good start. And get to the inside and be in the safest position as possible. Once I get through the first turn, I'm normally pretty good and just focus into a rhythm, but it's always a bit nerve-wracking before the lights go out, but once that engine starts, I'm no dramas. I wouldn't say, I don't really have a ritual. I think I've just, I always enjoy coming in here, listening to my favourite song or my favourite, song at the time, and just chilling out in the aircon and getting ready for a big race and zone out. And I normally, if I get into a good jam, I'll listen. I'll have that song stuck in my head before the start line. I'll keep me calm for the race. at Bathurst was probably pretty embarrassing. We were in a good shot for the win, and it was probably more so gut-wrenching than embarrassing, but it was still embarrassing on my part in front of all the guys. But we led all the race pretty much, and the last quarter of the race I made a mistake and hit the wall, so took us out of the race, put us about 10 laps down and out of the race. So it was something that still eats me now, and I was very embarrassed and gutted at the time. The scariest thing just happened just not long ago. I thought I was going to the fence, but anytime you're going to crash is a bad thing, and I think after my race win in Pukekohe, the first ever race win, the next day I had a broken steering arm and went directly in the wall about 200 k's, and I remember going in, I remember coming out, but I don't actually remember hitting the fence, and that was probably the scariest, knowing that I was going to go in very hard and not knowing what to expect, because I've hardly ever had a big shunt like that as well. So yeah, that was pretty scary. To keep race fit, I do a lot of training. I'm at least 5 days a week, maybe 6 days a week, doing lots of things. Rowing, doing some biking, weights, just general sort of stuff. I love kicking the footy as well. I love going down the Oval, and I'm a big AFL fan. You wouldn't believe it, from New Zealand, but I am. So I enjoy going down to the park and kicking around. I reckon that's one of the best bits of fitness too. But a lot of biking, at least sort of 150k a week, running, and also, yeah, when I am in the gym doing weights, I'm not trying to bulk up like a rugby player or an AFL player. I'm trying to be very conditioned for a supercar, so don't want to be too big, but high intensity stuff, high heart rate, and making sure I tone up instead of bulk up. I'm an apprentice fabricator, so I sort of, not apprentice, I'm a fully qualified tradesman now, so I wouldn't say I'm good, but I know I do understand the bits and bobs that go into building a V8 Supercar. First race win in V8 Supercars was the most special one of my career so far, and that was when I won at Pukekohe in New Zealand, and it was my home race, and something that I'll never forget. I was only my 4th meeting at the time in V8 Supercars, and I was the youngest ever winner of V8 Supercars too, so and I still hold that record, and hopefully will do for a long time. But to do it at home in front of my family and friends was huge for my career and myself. Winning is like no other. For one, you get to do a burnout, which is awesome, and then you get to spray some champagne, and when you see the boys' faces at the end, my team, my mechanics, the amount of work those guys put in behind the scenes, where I'm, being a race car driver and training, they're working hard non-stop on my car and making it better, and it's really for them, and for me it just it's like no other. So anytime you can get a win is amazing, as always. I know that I'm in this game for a long time if I do it right, and wherever that takes me, and I just want to do the right job for the right team who I'm with, and it'll take me, if I do a good job, it'll take me far. Being 22 and living my dream and being a professional race car driver is bloody cool.
I live in Sydney. I'm 32 years young. I've been in the industry for a lot of years. My father used to race, and I've been to racetracks since I was 2 weeks old. Became interested or doing it myself when I was 11, go-karting, and then progressed up through the ranks. The first time I got to drive anything, I was probably around 9 or 10 years old in the back paddock. I grew up on 5 acres, or we moved to 5 acres when I was around that age, and learned how to drive in the backyard in a 3-ton tipper of all things with my sister, and with my dad shouting remarks at us while we did it. The First time I actually raced, I was 12, I think, about 12 and a half, and it was at Eastern Creek go-kart track, and it was my first go-kart meeting. Like a lot of us come up through the ranks in go-karts. It was a Junior J Heavy. We bought the Junior J Heavy race, and we bought the go-kart out of the trading post about a week before, and my dad and I spent it and got it all together, and started off the back on P plates, and that was my first race. Yeah, look, I never really had a normal youth. Went out with my friends when I got my P plates, and it was in my first car was a Toyota Corolla, like a lot of people have. And but I was very, it was drilled into me at a very young age to respect the road, and I was able to race off the road. So I needed my license for work, and it was by no means looking at losing it. And I got to get rid of all my energy, if you like, at the racetrack. So I was able to do the normal things that a teenager does, but didn't push it to the envelope. I've always been around it, whether it be driving or laying underneath them, if you like, and spannering them. So probably that first race inspired me for the driving side of things. But as far as it being a passion or a part of the family, it always has been. It's part of my life. It's part of my wife's life, and my kids are all into it as well. So I think it's a good sport. It's a good family sport, and it's one that I hope to do for many years to come. Look, there is dangers in any sport. We've seen that lately in cricket and football and basketball. Our sport's come a long way from when my father used to race. The safety devices, our hands devices, the suits are better, the cars are better. They're always looking at ways to improve things on the safety side of things, and by all means, it's the best it's been. I keep race fit. I've got a go-kart that back to the old days, if you like. This one's a little bit quicker, a 125 go-kart that I do a lot of training in. I try and use that once or twice a week, and then the other times I've got a personal trainer once a week that I see for an hour, who absolutely drills me, and then I do some cardio and some my own workout at the local gym for a couple of hours of a morning most times. What goes through my mind at the starting gate's a lot of things. Generally in these, about supercar, it's about trying to get off the line. The start's very important, especially at Darwin and Phillip Island and a few other tracks where the first corner's a long way away. So generally thinking about start procedures, listening to the engineer, he's normally talking you up to the line of how far to go. General thinking about what might play out around you, cars in front or behind. You get used to racing certain people, so you try and envisage what you think may happen. Probably an accident for me that was probably a little scarier than I wanted it to be was I broke a shock at a track called Oran Park in Sydney, which is a local track for me, and it was in a Porsche, and came off the bridge, very fast corner, fourth gear, nearly on the limiter, and it exploded the left front shock, and it spun me around on the spot and ended up backwards 2 corners down the road, which is an up and down part of the track, and I ended up landing airborne in the fence backwards. So that was probably the most sizable accident, and the one that I definitely didn't expect. Top tips to become a driver or get involved in the industry is number 1, be passionate, make sure that you want to do it. Number 2, when you're going to do it, make sure that you put absolutely everything into it. There's a lot that goes into driving anything at any level, both out of the car or go-kart and in it. So there's a lot to learn. You'll have your good and your bad days. Generally the good days are what keeps you going, but unfortunately sometimes the bad days outweigh the good. But it's a very incredible job to have, very fortunate to do what we do, and a bad day here is still a very good day. Is for that feeling of winning. Some days a podium or even a top 10 or a top 5 can feel like a win, depending on where you're racing and what you think you've got going for that weekend. So, but the ultimate goal obviously is to win, and when you do win, it's like nothing else.
When I first started racing, I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd be racing in Darwin, but we started racing here 18 years ago. At that stage I met Shane, we've become good friends, we've met a lot of the family and a lot of other people here. I've gotten to experience a lot of what the Northern Territory is about. I've received some books, some records, I wear my shirt here proudly, that one, and I've got a new one and I'm feeling really good about it.
My favourite Northern Territory headline would have to be this one. Big thank you for this, guys. Really looking forward to listening to the music and reading the book.
Yeah, my favourite NT News headline is probably this one. I thought it was pretty classic, dud root, you could say. I couldn't believe that this is actually a real newspaper, but it is, and it's a real headline. So yeah, bloody good on them. It's cool. Thank you. It's awesome. I was talking about my music before, so I'm looking forward to listening to this fella. I'm looking forward to hearing his music, and I obviously won't understand it, but it'll calm me down for sure. And I now like NT News. I might have to switch on and like their Facebook page or something, but that's cool. Thank you. And the Jandals, can't forget the Jandals. Seriously, that's awesome. Best thing about Darwin is coming up here in winter time, putting some shorts on, because it's freezing in Melbourne. It's about 10 degrees and it sucks, and it's awesome to come up here. I love the track, love the facilities, love the people. People are amazing, and it's just a pleasure to come up here every year.
Do you notice anything different about the territory?
There's a lot more things that can kill you. Nah, that's probably it.
That's great, thank you.